All right, now we have the student of the month for Lynchburg Clay in January, second grader, my son, Ashton Fawley.
Right on.
All right, Ashton, we're going to ask you some hard-hitting questions today.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
You nervous?
No.
Okay.
Good.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
A cop.
Why?
I have no idea.
Do you like helping people?
Mm-hmm.
Is that maybe the reason?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about, what's your opinion on bullying, of people bullying other people?
That's bad.
Why is it bad?
Because it can hurt them.
How can it hurt them?
They say mean things to them.
Hurt their feelings?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how smart he is. Let's test him.
What?
Who's the president right now?
Donald Trump.
Right on.
Do you like Donald Trump?
Yes.
We'll leave it at that. What is your favorite thing to do?
Play
Play what?
Nerf guns.
Nerf guns now? It's not video games?
Nope.
Anybody got any hard-hitting questions for the... I think he's got a Rolling Stone cover to do next, so we got to get him out of here.
I think he's done great.
What? How did you get Student of the Month?
Like, they just picked me.
Why did they pick you? Did you do something like outstanding to be able to get it?
No, they just picked
They just randomly picked you?
Yeah.
I feel like there may be more to it than that.
No. There's not.
Don't sell yourself out,
Yeah.
man.
All right, Ashton, do you have anything that you want to tell everybody out there? Because your mom's going to be listening, Becca's going to be listening, all your mama, papa, all of them's going to be listening. Do you have anything you want to say?
No.
No. One last question, since it is Christmas in a couple days. What does Christmas mean to you?
Family?
Perfect answer. Ashton, thank you for coming. And Dallas, who do we have up next?
This week we got Colt West on. He wants to talk about the Burnout Generation.
All right, everybody stay tuned.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
So welcome aboard, Colt.
Thanks for having me.
So you wanted to speak about burnout today, and as soon as you told me that was something that you were interested in, that kind of made my ears perk up. So what's going on in your world that's something that's motivating you to want to speak about it?
Yeah, so when I first heard that you guys were starting this podcast, that's kind of one of the topics I want to bring to light. Something that is talked about a lot, especially in our generation as millennials. But I don't think it's talked about as much in later generations, like
Sure.
The ones before us, like the baby boomers and stuff like that.
Right.
So my question is why? Is it just because we're more in tune to social media and that we tell people about it more? Or does it just not happen to the baby boomers, or can they deal with it better than us? Like why is it that millennials are like, I don't know. Why doesn't it happen to us more, you know?
Yeah, this seems like there's sort of a stigma around this topic where it's like, this is such a millennial topic, and it's the previous generations had more difficult problems and they didn't have to deal with this one, kind of a thing. But I feel like we sort of owe it to those previous generations to improve the human condition, and actually follow through with figuring some of these issues, just like this topic out. Did you guys read any of the what was the book called? I didn't even write it down.
The Burnout Generation.
Yeah, the Burnout Generation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read it.
Thoughts?
It just goes into the overall topic of like the war on millennials. Like, and I love this topic. Like, I've defended millennials, and that boomers just crack me up because this is a whole different world. And one thing, boomers all raised this generation. That's like always forgotten. Like, you created this generation, but you blame us for most of your problems. And also, before the boomers were also hippies, which were like very similar. Like, I just feel like it's an overall, like, every generation gets a bad rap as they're taking over because they have it easier, but it's just a cycle.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. I'm trying to find, there was something in our Andrew Yang topic where we talked about the difference between our generation versus the baby boomer generation.
Baby boomers also bought their house for like $12,000.
And no student debt.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they had harsher working conditions, but they didn't have the mental working conditions, I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like a lot of the automation episode ties into this, I think, because we might become the first generation that's not really working anymore.
Yeah, I found that section of my notes where we talked about it. I don't even know if we jumped on it then. Some of the bullet points I have here. The chances of an American born in 1990 that will out-earn their parents was only 50%. Americans born in 1940, it was 92%. Basically, if you were working, you're going to make more money than your parents made. The rate of a CEO worker to worker pay was 20 to 1 in 1965. In 2016, it was 271 to 1.
Jesus Christ.
The top 1% have accrued 52% of the real income growth since 2009. And major companies don't have to employ as many people. Walmart employs 1.6 million. Amazon employs 340,000.
So the top just gets everything now.
Well, yeah, the rich keep getting richer. I mean, that's always been a saying ever since, forever. But it seemed like later generations got to keep more of their money, and now we're paying back debt, and we don't get to keep. That's why we'll never be richer than our parents, you know?
I think the idea that everyone has to go to college is a terrible way to raise generations, because there's some people that absolutely should go to college, but there's college degrees that you can get. You come out with $100,000 in debt, and your job
And no
is going
means
to
to
pay like
pay it back.
$35,000, and you've got $100,000 in debt. You got to pay $1,000 rent a month or whatever.
Right. So specifically to burnout, what's kind of in your world, like, are you feeling kind of that stress cycle in your world, or what's going on there?
Not at this time, no, but I definitely have.
In the past?
It's been a couple jobs where I felt burnout, and where I've actually been like talking to a colleague, talking about the job, and we're like, yeah, this is what burnout feels like.
Yeah.
Like, this is burnout. We don't want to be here. We have other things to do in our lives that are kind of more important than this job.
Yeah.
We don't need to be here.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what burnout feels like.
Do you guys think passion has to be tied directly to your work?
No.
I'm 50-50 on that because I'm guilty of this. If you're not happy where you work or you're not passionate about it, you bring that home with you. You bring that into your everyday life, and you just kind of go on autopilot mode after a while.
But it's difficult though, right? Because
very.
What if this job is going to pay me X amount of dollars more, and that's a way for me to provide more for my family and for myself, but I don't really like it that much.
See, I think this goes back to the minimalist episode as to why do you need all that money to pay for that big house that you don't need, to pay for all that stuff you don't need? Or would it be better to make less money, be happier at a job, not have as much money to buy all these things, but you're happier, and that's going to bleed into your overall life?
Well, burnout can happen even if you enjoy the job, though. Part of the second book that we read, which is just called Burnout. Admittedly, that is a book that's more geared towards women, but it had a lot of the science behind burnout, which is apparently a new field of study, which is something I learned in researching all of this. Let me go through the stages of burnout, and maybe you guys can tell me where you're at, because you're at one of these phases, whether you know it or not. Phase 1 is the honeymoon phase. So more often than not, this is when you're first getting a job. You might have symptoms like you're really committed to your job, you have high job satisfaction, unbridled optimism, high productivity levels. Stage 2, onset of stress. So this is sort of like a healthy amount of stress. You have some anxiety, but you're also starting to see some increased fatigue. You might have headaches or starting to have some job dissatisfaction, lower productivity. You might lack social interaction. Then you get into the next 3 stages, which progressively get worse. Chronic stress is stage 3. So you might have full-blown apathy setting in at this point. You might not have as much interest in hobbies that you previously had. You're missing deadlines, or you're late for work consistently. Might be have an uptick in your caffeine consumption or alcohol consumption or drugs. And then stage 4 is just called burnout. You'll have complete behavioral changes, chronic headaches, stomach or bowel problems, a desire to drop out of society entirely, self-doubt, self-isolation, a feeling of emptiness inside. And then stage 5, which is like just lay in your bed and watch Netflix all day, which is complete burnout syndrome, chronic mental fatigue, chronic sadness, depression. So where would you guys think you find yourself in those 5?
I feel like I felt a lot of those. Maybe not number 5. That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
I've never been like that depressed about a job or anything like that, but I have felt those stages before, and they kind of come with me anyways in like month fragments. You know, like the first
sort of in waves.
Like the first 3 months you're in that honeymoon stage,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next 4 months or so into 6 months into the job, you feel that second phase coming on.
Yeah.
Like more stress build up.
Mm-hmm.
And after a year, you may just not like where you're going with the job, and that just leads right into burnout because you don't want to be there, and it's just not your passion.
Yeah. Part of the second book, Burnout, this was pretty interesting to me, talking about some of the science behind the stress cycle, which I didn't know that was a thing. Have you ever heard that term before? A stress cycle? Mm-hmm. So they point to this example of early in our evolution, you're being chased by a lion, or a lion spots you, and you have 2 options, fight or flight. And fight only takes place when you know you have a higher chance of defeating that stressor. Flight is when you know you have no chance. So you're taking flight on the lion. So you run, so you feel that sudden urge of stress hit you, and your blood starts pumping faster, blood pressure increases, you have chemicals in your brain that pick up, your nervous system behaves differently, you have chemicals rushing through your muscles. You're literally soaked in stress juice. And so you run away. And if you're living to tell about this tale, you alert the village people, and they rush out to help you, and whatever, you survive that stressor. But you've completed the cycle of stress because all those things happened to your body, and you ran away. You were yelling. Maybe you helped with the village people actually fight the lion, but you've completed an entire cycle where your body's emotions are then satisfied by actually fighting the lion. Our problem with stress is that we have the stress, but we oftentimes do not complete the cycle. So every time we get some stress, it just stays in our body. Mm-hmm. I thought that was super interesting to hear about it that way.
Because you never get away. You never actually run.
Right. Yeah, we deal with it, and we always think of stress just as a mental thing, and we always say, well, just take a deep breath, it'll be okay. But that's like, they make this point, that's like trying to tell your heart to beat. It's involuntary action.
I guess there are some ways to get out the stress in your life.
Sure.
A hobby,
Mm-hmm.
yoga, meditation, family, all those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of gets you away from your job.
Those are the good ways, but a lot of people
Right.
don't face it and end up doing harmful things to either themselves.
Right.
And causing more stress.
Yeah.
But there's also a certain side of it, like if you get so far into this, is a hobby really going to fix it? Because like you've lost passion for everything. Therefore, like if you start a hobby, do you really think that you know what I mean? Do you think that passion is going to bleed into that hobby? Like you've lost it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, as many things you can do as to try to diversify yourself. And they claim that creative expressions was one of the keys of reduction of stress. So I think that's probably a subconscious reason why we wanted to start a podcast.
But I'm going through just like facts and stuff about burnout, and this one kind of hit me hard. Events don't cause burnout; it always comes from within. Like you're creating it.
Mm-hmm.
There's not one specific moment where it starts. It starts in your head.
Yeah. So the authors of Burnout describe a few ways that maybe you would think of and maybe you wouldn't to complete a stress cycle. The most obvious one that we hit on, 20 to 60 minutes of exercise. And it's like, well, how often should you be doing this? Pretty much as often through the week as you're experiencing stress, 5-6 days a week. If you're somebody that just absolutely hates going to the gym, you can lay in bed and tense all of your muscles as tight as you can and then just relax and do that in a bunch of sequences. Kind of odd, but... And then the other three are not even related to exercise at all. A 6-second kiss or a 20-second hug.
Fuck that.
I've heard the hug before.
Really?
I've heard that, yeah, definitely.
But she described it as the psychology of that is that it's 6 seconds because you're not just, you got to be pretty damn comfortable with somebody for a 6-second kiss or a 20-second hug. Like your body is recognizing that you're in a safe place in those periods of time.
I've heard
Makes
that.
sense.
Yeah.
I
Good cry.
I wouldn't hug you for 20 seconds, Brad.
I would absolutely hug you.
You would?
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it.
But would anybody give a 6-second kiss? Is the question.
Oh, I would.
What about a good cry? When's the last time you guys have had a good cry?
I feel like I'm in fucking therapy right now. I don't know. Like
It is a book geared towards women, so
I've never been like one to the manly man on that side. Like I'm an emotional person. Like I just am. Like shit gets to me.
yeah, there's no shame in that.
I'm not gonna tell you when the last time I cried was, but I'm just saying like it
On
probably
the
wasn't
way
that
over.
long. Yeah, on the way over here. I get a good cry every Sunday on the way over here.
Yeah.
Every time Reba comes on the radio.
Fancy.
Nah, I fight crying. I don't know why. I wish I didn't. Because there's times when like I want to cry and it pisses me off that I can't. It's just
I've
some
had that too.
Mhm.
weird thing where you just try to hold it back.
Yeah.
Like even deaths that I've dealt with, I just won't cry. And
Same.
it's like you want to get that release almost,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes sense because like even like kids when they after a good cry for a kid, you can see like whatever that anger is just totally mellow them out.
They need that good cry. And then like 20 seconds later, they're happy and running around.
Yeah.
It's crazy. My son does that. I mean, he throws a tantrum and then 20 seconds later, he's out just playing.
Mhm.
Like, that's just what kids do.
Uh-huh.
Why do we cry? It's a weird like response. Because it don't seem like it would help you anyway instinctually.
That's true. Well, laughing too.
Yeah.
Why do we laugh?
I mean, maybe that's the reason.
Well, she
To
lists
release stress.
laughing like a good like deep belly laugh, like not just chuckling, like laughing as hard as you possibly can as a way to complete the cycle. But yeah, maybe those are just evolutionary systems to help us deal with stress.
I had every intention to come in here and be like, this is bullshit. But
How you
like,
feeling now?
The more you talk about it, like, I'm burnt out. Like, I'm a part of it. Like, it describes me to a T right now.
Well, we're all on one of those phases.
Like, I'm not on phase 5, Netflix and chill by myself all the time, but yeah, I'm in it.
So where do you think you're at then? Be honest. Onset of stress, chronic stress, or burnout. You're probably not at habitual burnout, but
I'm chronic for sure. Like I go on autopilot mode more than I live life right now, which I've realized that, and I've taken steps to try to fix that. But I never considered myself completely burnout before.
yeah. Well, Colt, have you felt like in some of your experiences, like you don't realize you're there until you like kind of do a self dive and be like, oh shit, I do feel like I'm pretty burnt out.
Yeah, you kind of have to just like sit back and think about it. Like if something might have happened, and then you just step back and think about what happened, and then you're just like, man, I'm feeling this tension, and I think it's burnout.
Yeah.
And it kind of just flows right through you, like this emotion of burnout. It's a weird feeling, and I don't wish it upon anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
Well, in the burnout book, the second one, the author describes that. I don't know what to call that. That emotion, that realizing that you're hitting this is called freeze. So you have flight option, you have fight option, and you also have freeze, which I had never heard of. But the freeze is just that momentary thought of, do I run or do I fight?
That hesitation.
Yeah.
That's when the lion eats you.
Right. Yeah. And freeze is literally just in psychology playing dead. And you're in that moment, you're also kind of thinking of what are my odds either way. You don't stay in freeze very long, but
Well, if it's a lion, you're pretty much screwed either way. So you might as well play dead.
but if you're trying to figure out if going to a job that you really hate is one, you know, if it's better for your time and energy to be going to this job and feeling the way that you are, or getting out of there.
See, the more I think about it, like I would always say, no matter where I work, that I hate my job. But the more I've been thinking about it here recently, the job I have now, like, I don't think I hate it. I just find reasons to hate it. Like, it's like I won't let myself be happy there. It's like I'm always looking for something better.
Better in terms of how?
See, I don't know. That's the problem. Like, it's always I need better, but what does better mean?
Yeah,
Just
is
the
it a grass is greener on the other side kind of
Maybe
dilemma?
Maybe because, like, in all honesty, I sit in an office all day. I get paid really good money. I sit in front of 3 computer screens. Like, what is there to hate about this? And I'm realizing that more and more over the past couple weeks. And I'll post this on our Facebook page. I posted on my personal Facebook, but I found this motivational speaker guy. I forget his name, but he was in Afghanistan, I think, a few years back, like 8 or 9 years back maybe. And he ended up getting all of his limbs completely amputated from an explosion. And now this guy is standing up on stage talking, and you would think there's nothing happened to him. And he's very big on your attitude can change every aspect of your life. No matter what's happening, if you go in with a good attitude and try to stay positive about the situation, it can change your life. And I'll be honest, right now, the past week, like if I find myself getting down a little bit, I'll watch that 6-minute video of him talking.
Yeah, sometimes you just need that pick me up.
Yeah.
To just remind yourself that it's really not that bad.
Yeah, because it's not even about there's bad stuff going on in your life. It's just you're too inward. You're not letting yourself out of your head for some reason.
Sure. I get in that all the time. I get it'll start when I'm thinking of a problem that I really, really want to fix. I don't have enough money to pay a medical bill. How am I going to get this little bit of extra money to pay it? and I won't stop thinking about it until it's either paid for, or oftentimes I just stress myself out so much that I got to kind of step back and force myself to quit thinking about it.
I feel like the more you try not to think about something, the more you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like holding in your emotions, and then just like it just comes right at you one day. 'Cause you held them in for so long, and
Right.
now like you have to face them no
Yep.
matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, I really wanted to be an asshole on this today, but I can't.
Oh, it's definitely a first world problem. Like, we're lucky to even have these problems, sort of.
True.
I mean, there's still people running from a literal lion.
Yeah. We're using it as an example to explain to us they're actually running. But what are we doing if we're not trying to improve ourselves, you know?
No, I think it's
Yeah.
a good topic. I'm going to love to see, like, boomers fight it. Like, I love that.
Yeah, boomers, please comment below what
Okay,
how
boomer.
big of pansies we are.
But is that the problem, that we're always trying to better ourselves? Like the bar is always getting set higher and higher in our own minds about ourselves. Like when are we there? When are we where we want to be? We're never where we want to be.
Satisfied.
Because once you get here, you're looking over here. Once you
Yeah.
get over there, you're looking over here. When are we satisfied with who we are? Like
Yeah.
when we're dead?
That's why you're always looking for a pay raise.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
always more, more, more.
Yeah.
God, this is like therapy.
And that kind of goes on to your last episode of minimalism.
Yeah.
I mean, you
You're
just got to
always
push that
chasing
out.
rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're never going to get it.
No, you're always comparing yourself to other people too.
God, this is getting
Yeah.
dark.
I don't think it's so much getting dark. It's just it's reality. Like why do we need to keep getting better? What's the end game? What's the point behind this? I understand
Yeah.
always strive for more. I get that, but to the point where you're this burnt out, like that's like we're doing it to ourselves. Like we created this society where you're never good enough.
Well, there's also I want to get better, but there's also I want to get better really fucking fast.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I can remember taking like 18, 21 credit hours in a single semester and just being like so damn tired all the time. Just couldn't even like pick myself up at times, but you got to, because you got a class coming up in half an hour.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes without saying, you want to get through college as fast as possible when you're in it. So
Right, yeah.
taking those classes, I don't blame you.
Absolutely. When I was in grad school, especially, I had one professor approach me one time because she could see it in me that I was just done.
Yeah, teachers can sense like when you have senioritis and you don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah. Well, I carried it for my last 3 years of my education, my senior year in undergrad and my 2 years of grad school. And I
can confirm that.
Oh my God. Well, I was writing my thesis and, you know, she was the professor that was helping me write and everything. And she was like, you know, why are you not interested in, you know, attending these extra events with the rest of the class? Or, you know, why? She was basically just asking why I was so disconnected. I was like, I want to get out of here as fast as I fucking can. I just told her straight up, and she was like, okay, that's fair. She didn't argue with me or anything, or even try to motivate me to not be feeling that way. She just needed to understand, I think, for herself why I was so unlike the rest of my classmates.
How many classes do you think you took in college that you don't need, that you didn't need?
More than half.
That's part of the thing. Like, you're paying thousands of dollars for these classes. And, like, some of these degrees do not need a degree. Like, you could learn it all on hand. Not your job. Not like a doctor or something like that. But
my degree could have been completed in half the time if it was condensed. Let me give you a shining example. I had to get a horticulture credit at one point. I've already told you this story.
no.
One of the options to get my horticulture credit was a class called the History of Beer. And of course, I took that one over actual stuff that was about horticulture, because who doesn't want to sit around and drink beer? That's what we did.
I'd be so pissed.
I remember when you took that class.
It was a 3-hour course once a week, and each week somebody different from the class would present on this type of beer, and they would have to bring samples for the entire class. And we would sit there, and and waft the smell and take sips of it and describe it in these elegant flowy terms. And this is a flowery beer with an herbal earthy tones, that kind of shit. And then we had I think 2 or 3 different brewery tours where we would just get a sampler and just we would go through. Yeah, it was like, yeah, this is great. You know, I'm in college, I love drinking, and here I am drinking for credit. But at the same time, I'm paying money for this. This is required to get an architecture degree.
Maybe
Are you kidding me?
Maybe they're preparing you to get burnout. They're preparing you to have a different taste for different types of alcohol.
Let's start your alcoholism now.
Yeah. Sorry to go on a tangent there, but
No.
college is a scam.
That may have been the happiest you've been in college. I remember you taking that course and like, oh, I went to a brewery today for my course.
Yep.
Like, okay, good for you.
I feel like, especially with this generation, graduating high school sets you up for failure. High school does not prepare you for the real world. Nope. Not one bit. Not one fucking bit. Like there's certain things like I needed to know how to balance a checkbook.
Yes.
I didn't need to know how to draw a fucking picture in art. Teach me stuff that I need to know.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. I think there's a meme out there. It's like we need to know how to balance the checkbook. Okay. What's that little instrument we used to play in music class? Recorder. He was like, put your fingers right here.
Hot cross buns.
Hot cross buns.
Yeah, I left school knowing how to play a recorder, but not knowing how to balance my checkbook.
Right.
Or taxes or anything financially or
Taking out a loan.
Yeah.
Credit cards, the effects of getting credit cards.
That could be one course. It's not like it's all that difficult.
'Cause
That could be one course.
But most high schools, don't they have like home economics or something? I never took it. Did anybody take that?
I took home ec my senior year.
My wife did.
Do they teach
Did they
anything
teach
like
you
that?
anything?
It was cooking.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It was baking.
It's how to become a wife, right?
I'm still trying to learn how to cook.
Didn't help me balance the checkbook, that's for sure.
see,
Or figure out fast food.
See, if they don't teach you the real life things, what does it matter if you can cook? You ain't gonna have no fucking money to buy food.
Yeah, I can multiply like a motherfucker, but I have no idea how to survive.
I still got to use my phone for basic math at this point.
Yeah, most of the stuff you did learn, you've already forgot because you don't use it.
Well, it's a regurgitation education. It's you're learning something for 3 weeks, take a test on it. Whoever has the best memory and the best short-term memory can regurgitate all that shit out. And then it's gone in another couple weeks.
Yeah, it seems like high school is just to prepare you for college, but not everybody goes to college, and they're in that limbo after they get out of high school, and they got to figure it out, and that's where most people fuck everything up when they're trying to figure it out right then.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't prepare you for like the in-between part of high school, the transition to college. It's like, okay, you can take math in high school, you can take math in college, but like to get there, you have to take out a $100,000 loan.
Right.
It's like, okay, how do I get there?
Yeah.
I will say there's a school that we are it's actually in construction right now, where we designed this school around a different type of curriculum. It's called project-based learning. And so we had to, the architecture of the entire school changed because the way that like different classrooms had to interact with each other was totally different than your typical, okay, now I'm in science class and now I'm in math class. Now I'm in English. They have project-based learning where these kids are given these massive projects and they have to work in teams on some of them, and some are individual, but they basically have to seek out their own education to help them with parts of this project, just like you do in life. A lot of us don't know how to work on cars, so you got to figure out who to go to help you either learn how to work on cars or somebody that can do it for you. Life is just a bunch of learning little things, so that's, I think, kind of what they're after is, pushing kids at an early age the skills of being able to go and seek their own help, learn for themselves. I thought that was it's pretty interesting. It's in a school that historically had really bad state testing scores and all that. So it's kind of like a state sponsored change in curriculum where it's like, well, there's not a ton to lose here. So why not test it out?
It's a little experiment, like a social experiment.
Basically, very expensive one as far as building a brand new school, but yeah,
Like, forget these kids. We don't care if they learn or not.
I don't think it's that.
They're gonna know
But
how to
if-
change a transmission though.
But if it doesn't work, and they're back to exactly where they were.
Yeah, no, I like the idea.
Yeah.
You learn real life skills.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like more people, because like you said earlier, Brad, not everybody's made for college. I think trade schools need to be pushed more than they really are right
You're
now.
starting to see a
Mhm.
bigger push for back to trade schools.
Yeah, it's got to be, because like there's so many people with that certain degree. You're not going to find a job because there's so many people in line for that job.
Mhm.
You go to a trade school, you learn how to cut hair, you learn how to work on aircrafts.
Yep.
Like, you're getting a job and you're set up. You're not in horrible debt. Most trade schools cost probably like $2,500, $5,000 maybe, and you're probably going to make more money than a
Absolutely.
college graduate.
Yeah.
You pay that back the first year.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you're out of debt.
My brother did trade school, and he's already got, like, he was offered a job before he even graduated, and then had a job. He took a different job, but he was hired within a couple months or
Yeah.
less.
I think thankfully we're starting to see trade schools come back in vogue. Like when we were in school, it wasn't even mentioned. It was like, well, if you can't do anything else, I guess
Yeah.
fucking go to trade school.
Right.
And, like,
Yeah.
they always made it seem like you wouldn't make any money. And, like, some of the people I
Right.
know that are in these trades make more money
Tons of
than
money.
anybody I know that went to college.
Right. If you went to Laurel Oaks, I mean, you're kind of an outcast
Yeah.
in our school,
Yeah.
anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But now those are like the most stable jobs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it feels like a lot of the Gen Zers are like starting to find that path
Mhm.
better than we did.
I'm super, like, when I was in high school, I thought I had to go to college. I ended up getting my girlfriend pregnant at 17, which caused me to not go to college, and I'm so thankful that I didn't. Because, like, I don't make great money, but I make as much money as people that I know that went to college.
Mhm.
I have a pretty good life. I'm not $100,000 in school debt.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have spent 2 years getting hammered and not going
That's
to class
exactly
and dropped out.
Yeah.
So it would have been a waste anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of $100,000 in debt, you'd be $50,000 in
Yeah,
debt
with
with
nothing.
nothing to show for
Yeah.
it.
No job, no degree. And I'd be working at the same kind of place I'm already at.
Possibly,
Mhm.
yeah. Somebody was looking out for you. Isn't it weird to look back at like some of your life events like that and like it didn't make any fucking sense at the time, but then you look back, you're like, oh, that's
I thought
that's why that happened.
having a kid at 18, I thought was my biggest mistake, but it was like it literally saved me and turned my life completely
I've said
around.
that for years. Having a kid when you did saved your life.
Yeah.
See, if you look back at me to like 17, 18, you'd be dumbfounded by who I am now. Like, I was the kid with the metal all on my face, fingernails painted. I didn't graduate high school. Like, no.
Really?
Wow.
No.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
Mm-mm.
No, I didn't graduate high school. But then you fast forward a lot of years later, like, what is it?
Like
15?
50.
Oh, it's like 15 years. 15 years. Man,
Founded
the
school.
job I have now, the money I'm making now, the life I have now, if you would have told me that when I was 17, there's no way I would have bought into that.
Yeah, me and my wife were talking, like, we're less than a week away from the end of this decade. Like, how we start, like, we basically got together at the beginning of the decade, and how much different we are now. Like, how young we were. We were making this, like, super huge life decisions that we had no
Right.
basis to stand. And that's like, you're 16, 17 years old, and your teachers are saying, okay, you need to pick a degree that you're going to have the rest of your life. You're not going to be able to change it because you're already thousands of dollars in debt. You just got to
Right.
stick with it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I was at when I was hitting senioritis. It's like, well, I can't turn back.
Yeah.
Right.
What am I going to do now? I got to keep going. You know, I love my job and I love what I do, but oh my gosh, there was a lot of time where I was like, this is rough.
It's just a way
Very
to drain money from kids.
College is definitely getting pushed too much. Even when you go to high school graduations, what's the one thing they talk about? They talk about who got
Scholarships.
what scholarships, who's
Mhm.
going to what school.
Right.
Yep.
So to switch topics a little bit, we're almost at the end of the year. Goals come up at this this time of year. Are you guys big on like goal setting and like milestones and all that kind of stuff?
I am now.
You are now.
Like I am right now.
Not so much. Not yet, anyways. But I want to start a hobby of some sort. Yeah. So I think that's gonna help me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's another question I was going to ask you. Like, do you feel like you're like diversified in like the time that you spend on just doing things like hobbies or golfing or just, or does it feel like it's a continuous routine of get up, work, come home?
Yeah, like it kind of is. You're kind of just going through the motions a lot of the time. Go to work, go back home, visit with the family. Feels like you spend most of your time at work, and then you just visit your house for a few hours, then you go back to work, and then you live there.
Right.
That's what it feels like a lot of the time. And but I mean, where I'm at now, I go in at 8, I leave at 5, and then I spend the rest of the time with my family, and that makes me happy.
Yeah.
And that's what you need. You need that balance.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even think this is so much like I'm not waiting until January 1st to start this, my New Year resolution, but like I'm trying to find my passion again.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm working on finding the passion that I used to have and the drive I used to have.
Sure. Well, Dave Ramsey always says, are you thinking one day or are you doing day one? That always like really hit me. Like, what the fuck am I waiting for? I'm waiting for January 1st. Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what day I'm on right now, but it's further than day one.
Yeah.
Because if you wait for that one day and that day passes and you're at January 2, you're not going to do it. You're going to wait
Right.
till the next January 1st.
Well, I guess I'll try again.
You're just going to keep waiting.
Well, that's why if you go to a gym the Thursday, January 2nd, it's going to be packed. Go a week later and see if the gym's packed.
Right. I had a guy that's a CEO of a major architecture firm in Cincinnati come in and give a speech when I was in college. David Ardens is his name, or Arens is his name. Described goals differently than I had heard before. So he described if you really want to push yourself in whichever direction you want to go, he's like have like your 5-year goal or your 10-year goal, your kind of long-term goal, but don't just have that and just kind of wing it to get there. You should also have like an annual goal, monthly goals, weekly goals. You can even break that down to daily. So if I'm trying to lose 30 pounds this year or whatever, I mean, diet is always the go-to. But like for me, I'm trying to pass my architecture registration exams this year. That's been a really sore spot for me the last couple of years. But I've also been minimal on my study of those. So like, how can I break down? I mean, it's 6 different really long exams, 3-hour exam. How can I find the time to break those down into a month or down to a day level small changes are going to lead to your really big changes, I guess is kind of what he's after.
Yeah, I'm sure it snowballs.
Yeah.
One little change turns into 2, turns into 4.
Yep.
Yep.
Snowball effect.
That's the way I've been going with it. Even Monday, I'm waking my ass up at like 4 in the morning, and I'm going back to Planet Fitness again.
There you go. Did you ever watch that speech? U.S. Navy Admiral William H. McRaven, he gives that speech. If you want to change the world, start by making your bed.
Yeah, I've heard it.
That is one of my favorite speeches.
Well, there's a book based off that speech.
My little brother just got it for Christmas yesterday. That's why I thought of it.
Did it? Yeah. I've been wanting to check out that book.
But yeah, it kind of points to David Aaron's point of like, just start with something super small. It doesn't have to be anything major. And you have that one little thing that builds to 2 little things, like you were saying, builds into something that you can really be proud of.
That's the same thing I'll talk about earlier about your attitude. If you can just slightly change your attitude daily, weekly, it'll start snowballing, and you won't have to think about changing your attitude. It'll just be your attitude.
Yeah,
all the
it
time.
just becomes you.
Yep.
So do you think these little changes will have an effect on whether you burn out in society or not?
You'd like to think so. You'd like to think that part of your burnout is so self-inflicted that it's something that you can kind of change your behavior to help yourself. I'm kind of thinking as I'm talking.
Yeah.
I did that a lot in this podcast, but
I think you're always going to get burnout. It's going to happen no matter what you do, but it's the way you deal with that and the way you get yourself out of that.
yeah.
Like if you make it to the step one of being burnout and you climb out of there, I think that would be perfect. Like just as long as you're not getting to where you're so depressed you can't get out of bed and you can work yourself out of that, I think that's a good step.
I think a lot of people just need to turn around and see where you've came from, like
Sure.
how far you've come.
Mm-hmm.
Like we forget where we started.
Gain some perspective.
This is half of this generation's problems.
Looking at other people.
Yeah.
Yes, like what?
I mean, like looking at comparing lives to somebody
Yeah,
else.
yeah,
Oh,
not
yeah.
even that. Like the way a lot of people burn out or try to get out of being burnt out or they pass time is looking through this.
Yeah.
And then that they see other people's lives that they think the grass is greener, but in reality what they're seeing is not their lives.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a highlighted version of it.
Yeah.
It's
They
like the
have
best
problems
parts of
too.
it.
They're going through shit too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been off work with my shoulder surgery for 2 months, and it almost felt like a complete life reset. And like I've said since I started, like everybody should get a month off work, if not yearly, like biannually. Because like I feel like I was at a high stage 4 in this burnout. Like I was going crazy, and all that stress is gone right now. I'm going back in a week, and it's scary, but I'm ready to go back, honestly. Like I don't feel burnout anymore. Like you've got 24 hours a day, 8 hours say you sleep, 8 hours you work, and 8 hours you try to jam everything into your life, like your kids, your wife, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right now I've got 16 hours that I can get everything done. I don't have to worry about like a third of my life. I don't even have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with creative expression being one of these stress cycle, what is the term she used? Stress cycle completers, I guess. Do you feel like the podcast has helped you, like Travis was saying earlier, it's just sort of like a therapy session? But I mean, this is really like our way of being creative.
Well, my thing with the podcast is I just kind of selfishly help improve myself. Like look at these topics that could help like my life, and I feel like a lot of them already have.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just changing. Like we could get so stuck in our own mindset and like what we were taught growing up, and like just opening your mind to these different ideas. I've already felt like it's changed my life in 2 months.
I feel like the other ones we've done, I mean, they've been fun and they helped me burn off some stuff, but I feel like this one in particular has just been like a kick in the nuts. Like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a topic that everyone experiences.
See-
It doesn't really matter, like, how old you are. I mean, until you get a job, of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
See,
children can't really get
I'm
burned out.
on that borderline because I think millennial is supposed to start in 85. I was born in 86. I'm on that line where I'm still a part of that generation where you're not allowed to feel this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like swallow it down deep down and provide for your
Yeah.
family.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Yep.
But in reality, how
Stay at the grindstone.
how are your kids seeing you when you act like that? When you come home and you're just so done with your day.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
they're gonna start to realize what's going on, and they're gonna take it in a different way. Not that dad's burnt out. Dad doesn't really care about us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dad's a dick.
Yeah, and that's what.
Yeah.
No.
Well, if we don't take the effort to try to figure something out like this out, guess who's going to be dealing with it in a few years? Also, our kids.
Yep, they won't have a choice.
Right.
We didn't really have a choice either, though. It just kind of it's all mental. It's just what we think and what other people think, and then we think like them. And then social media feeds into that. Like what you brought up. Like you see these other people doing these great things on Instagram, and you want to be there with them,
Right.
but you're stuck at a desk.
They're
Probably stuck at a desk too when they're not taking those pictures.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
to be honest.
I just feel that society's evolving so fast, it's almost impossible to really prepare any generation for it. Because, like, my brother is the next generation after us, and I feel like his generation is completely different than ours. And there's only 8-year difference.
Totally agree.
I feel like a good way to wrap this episode up and to kind of put our generation into a group is how many likes did you get on a picture you posted today? That's the importance to everybody. That's basically that's life now. How much do other people like your life?
Yeah.
Right.
I remember even back in MySpace, like I'd see my friends out doing stuff, and I'd get super like depressed. Like I'm just sitting at home watching you do this, and like almost be pissed off that they didn't like invite me or something.
Yeah.
Like,
I love it when boomers kind of defend us, though. You know, I've seen that here recently. I'm not sure what article I read, but it was on MSN, and there's this boomer defending millennials and how we're not all lazy, and we're not all job hoppers. I love seeing like the older generations kind of step in and talk for us a little bit, because it kind of seems like everyone's against us, but in reality, not everyone's really against us.
I feel like we get blamed for a lot of stuff that we have no control over. Like,
Right.
It'll be an article like millennials are killing malls. Like, Amazon's killing. Oh, shit.
Edit.
We almost made it.
We're
through
good
an
for
episode without
good for
bashing
one an
it.
episode.
But anyway, online sellers are killing malls. We have nothing to do with it. Or like, the diamond industry is dying off because millennials want dogs. Like,
Yep.
we don't need diamonds.
Yeah.
Like, we get blamed for everything. And that's why I like it, because it's so funny.
Yeah.
I remember seeing one episode or one article, I think on Twitter, saying that millennials can't afford houses because they spend so much on bachelor parties.
Oh my God.
That's the reason. That's the reason we can't afford a mortgage. It's not the student loan debt. It's not the increased interest rates. And
No, it's the coffee and the bachelor parties.
that's
what
exactly
it is.
right.
Yeah.
Avocado
That's it.
toast.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking about millennials or hipsters?
Same thing, isn't it?
I feel like
Can be.
millennials or boomers think all millennials are hipsters. I think that's where a lot of the
Right.
arguments start.
Because we're younger than them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the main issue.
All right, we wrapping this one up.
Yeah, we're good to wrap.
What we got next week?
I
Is that
don't
my
know.
week?
Yeah.
What the hell are we talking about?
That book with the F word on it.
Oh, yes. That will tie directly into this topic, actually.
Book with the F word. All of a sudden, you're too proper. You can't say.
It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
That's it.
Ah,
I can't remember who wrote it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, author.
no shout outs for you.
Yeah, maybe next week. Colt, this was great.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun.
If you come up with another topic you feel passionate about, by all means, come back.
Will do. I'll be thinking about them.
Fantastic. All right, thanks, guys. Go learn something this week.